Hello. We are from Ukraine. In this episode, we show how intelligent machines will understand different scenes from movies. Our ability to measure and compare is fundamental for recognition and differentiation. Let's define property as something comparable and measurable. Consider it a measuring tape with different labels corresponding to points and ranges. An object having that property will project at some point or somewhere inside some range, and the respective label will characterize the object in terms of that property. Time is a special property. By having timestamps and changes in properties, we introduce dynamics in actions. Directly or indirectly, actions change some properties. A single object may have multiple properties. A single action may change multiple properties. We may view objects and actions from the angle of specific properties, establishing a context. Philosophically speaking, everything is an object because it has properties that allow differentiating. Objects are differentiated by properties. Actions, by how they change properties. Properties, by how they can be measured and compared. In terms of constituents, sentences follow formulas. An SVC formula defines its subject as characterized by some label represented by the complement. An SVO formula describes an action performed by the subject with respect to the object. These are two main formulas. Sometimes the only differentiating factor is whether the verb is linking or not. Language allows asking questions about any constituent of any formula. The party that knows the answer usually has several candidates for that constituent. Questions provide information about all the other constituents of the fact in memory to be found to extract the missing piece. Wording can be different. It is important that the words in the question project to the same points or ranges as the words in the recorded fact. The match may be imperfect. We will select the most fitting one. Our certainty about the answer may be far from ideal. We have ways to express that in language. And we always know if we don't have enough information to answer the question. Intelligence checks the fitting of available candidates by comparing their properties. Answering questions is what it does. Comparing properties is the mechanism it uses. Please consider watching episode 5 for more details. Parsing natural languages requires respect for the conventions of each language. The order of words and word endings are just pieces of syntax. Ignore some essential piece and you are up for trouble. The bag of words for English sentences is a perfect example. By feeding parts of speech into templates and completed templates into the templates of the next level, we reach the end of a sentence. Templates could extract several complete sentences, ignoring or overutilizing some words from the original one. The word usage rule should help. The mix of optional and obligatory pieces allows for addressing the unlimited with a limited toolbox. When we reach the clause level, we are no longer bound to a specific language. Here we have object references. Everything is an object, remember? What is wonderful about language is that it allows for multiple meanings. The source language can produce multiple meanings at this level, which will fail to be translated into a similarly ambiguous sentence of the destination language. Languages are different. Before we describe how to address ambiguity, let's analyze how people organize their communication, be it oral or written. A bunch of random unrelated sentences seldom make up a good text. Usually, sentences in a discourse follow some plan or recipe. One group of sentences bakes one argument, and the other group cooks another one. The final paragraph mixes previously prepared ingredients into a tasty conclusion. It's like a pipeline where the results of each module feed perfectly into another. In a short message, we juggle a limited number of items. Even if we look at them from different angles, we focus on them consistently. And we try to make it easier for the listener. We make vague concepts more specific, and general ones more detailed. At the same time, we respect our listeners by not providing redundant details. As a result, the memory for the communication session contains sufficient information to make various inquiries. That information is limited, which enables us to process it faster, and it is not contradictory, so that we may be certain about the results of our reasoning. No serious paper about ambiguity makes do without visiting relatives. So is it visiting my relatives or relatives visiting me? We expect a good text to provide enough information for disambiguation. Let's suppose it does. Here we even have 3 possible sentences that may be provided. Consider also 2 options. A helping sentence may be provided before or after an ambiguous one. And let's make sure that an unhelpful sentence like the last one here will not deceive us. Just like using words different from those stored in memory. How are we supposed to organize our discourse processing pipeline to enable a machine to figure out who visited whom? We will need memory for a session, memory for general knowledge, a parser, and a reasoner. In the first stage, our parser will produce two possible interpretations of the sentence. In one case, visiting is a gerund, in the other, it is an adjective. In the first case, I visit relatives, in the second, relatives visit me. As an action, a visit changes many properties. One of them is the number of people in a house. The first interpretation corresponds to the decrease in that number for my house. The second implies the increase. More crowded resolves to the kind of change as in the second option. Therefore, in the presence of that hint, we may conclude that relatives visited me. A visit also exposes the visitor to a new environment with all the consequences. Therefore, the second hint supports the first interpretation, that I visited relatives. Notice the usage of there as a reference to a distant location. This conclusion is additionally strengthened by the agreement of emotional assessments do not like and annoying. If these assessments were the opposite, that hint would not be helpful. The bigger the number of people in my house, the more I need to buy every day to provide for them. Therefore, the third hint supports the second option, that relatives visited me. Again, the emotional assessment for increased expenses is usually negative, which agrees with annoying. The unhelpful hint from the last sentence supports both options, therefore it cannot help the process of disambiguation. If a hint follows an ambiguous sentence, then during the initial assessment we assign equal probabilities to both options. Later, encountering the hint, we will return to the ambiguous phrase and reevaluate the probabilities accordingly. This chatbot was developed to test early ideas about templates in knowledge organization and usage. Even without the advanced features discussed in this video, it could resolve pronoun references and answer basic questions. From this screenshot, we can see that the chatbot performs some basic evaluation of candidates and selection of the most fitting one. Just a slightly more interesting example is shown here. This proof of concept demonstrates that the approach has potential and is worth a shot. Now we will analyze some phrases from this screenplay. Why not the novel? The video adds worthy details. If you want, you will have an opportunity to check in the movie for available candidates, additional hints, and other details. What are our expectations about what's in the bundle? General knowledge memory may suggest that such bundles are usually used to hold babies. We have the mentions of the boy and him. Therefore, we may expect a baby boy in that bundle. Who are muggles? At this moment our memory doesn't hold such a word. But we may store it knowing only that it is some attribute that can describe people. This one is good. Why did Harry provide that specific answer? There are many reasons for Sunday to be the best day of the week. From the movie, we know that Uncle Vernon tries to prevent Harry from reading a mysterious letter that keeps getting posted to him lately. This makes this answer most fitting. Finally, we get a long-awaited definition and we update the information about that word in our memory. Apart from animals, it is hard to expect anything from that list to be mentioned in our general knowledge memory among possible goods sold in shops and stores. Narrowing the search area to only London is also interesting. The two obviously have no time to spread the search on the whole of England, not to mention Europe or even Australia. Harry is not yet accustomed to magic. With respect to this list of items and Harry's current experience, this question is reasonable. The question, can we find bread in London? On the other hand, wouldn't be. The mere presence of a wand in Ron's hand made Hermione expect magic. Why? We have not had enough information in the movie to form adequate knowledge about magic and the role of wands in it. But we have sufficient information from other sources about magic and we transfer that knowledge into this world. Make sure that our general knowledge tags that information with a label only applies to imaginary worlds where magic exists. In the real world, anyone with a wand would not make us believe that we are about to see magic. Real one at least. This is the first time trolls are mentioned in the movie. But our general knowledge holds information about them from other sources. We know that trolls are dangerous. In case of danger, our System 1 takes over and makes us panic and search for a way out of the place associated with danger. Even though System 2 may reasonably argue that the troll is in the dungeon and it is the dungeon that is dangerous. On the contrary, a hall with powerful wizards should be considered safe. Recognizing a state as requiring urgent actions according to rather simple protocols is not difficult. But that's a task for later. In the movie, we see clouds of dust. Let's ignore for now whether it is okay to have so much dust in the toilet. How will the machine explain the clouds of dust based on that text alone? General knowledge may readily explain this because objects falling on the dusty surface cause the dust to become airborne. What was Harry going to ask? By that moment in the film, there were many mysterious persons as candidates to consider. But most likely the most recent is also the most fitting. So, who sent Harry the broomstick? In this video, we observed how intelligence performs its magic and also we visited relatives. Or was it them who visited us? You can help me with your likes and comments. And don't forget to subscribe and push the notification bell to be informed about upcoming videos. New videos will follow in the future, your attention will be much appreciated.